without further ado, Sina, you can take away whenever you're ready.
Thank you so much, Dorsa. Hello, everyone. I hope you hear me well. Actually, I was sick the past few days, so my voice is not the best right now. And at some points, I may need to cough a little bit, so I'll mute not to bother you. Um, Thank you so much, Dorsa, for the bio as well. I will try to share my screen. Can you see?
Yes, perfect.
So, yes. As Dorsa said, I mostly work with the concepts of language, writing code, and translation. These are uh, these are the concepts I work the most in the realm of graphic design and visual arts. When I was preparing for this conference, I was wondering which project should I choose because yeah, it is limited time and there are many projects to explain the process of the work and also the outcome. So I thought maybe it is interesting to talk about one aspect of my practice, which is about experimenting with tools, hacking tools, and making tools. To see using of the tools, hacking them and making them as a medium that has a very strong connection uh, to the concept of the project, and it becomes like a medium rather than just a tool to get to the outcome. When I explain about this, you'll understand more. I will start with the project. First of all, I will show you this image. It is an engraving by Gustave Doré, The Confusion of Confusion of Tongues. I don't know if you know the story of the Tower of Babel. So basically, according to mythology and later in the Genesis, when it was described that all humankind had the same language. So they became so strong and united, and they tried to build a tower in Babylonia. The tower was so high and reaching the sky. And this language they taught was the language of God in a way. So they became so arrogant, and God made a punishment for them. And they made them speak different languages. So from that point, people could not understand each other, and they were constantly fighting each other. So this is a mythology to explain how the languages in the world was created at the first. There is also this story, The Library of Babel by Borges. I don't know if you have read it, but in this story, which gives reference to the story of the Tower of the Babel, Borges explains, imagines kind of a library in which there is infinite number of the books. And this infinite number of the books contain different possibilities of combinations of the 28 letters of Latin alphabet. So you can have books which is different combination and different um, arrangement of the letters. So what does this say to us? There is a theory which is called the infinite monkey theorem, which is interesting to reflect on. It says that if you put a monkey on a typewriter and the monkey starts to type infinitely, like for an infinite amount of time, eventually he will be able to type Shakespeare's stories. How is it possible? Because Shakespeare's story is just one of the arrangements of the letters. It is one possibility among all the millions and millions and infinite possibilities of arranging letters to form words and phrases and pages. So eventually, by making all the possibilities possible, you will end up with all the things that can exist. Of course, we cannot do that because we don't have infinite time, and we cannot have a monkey who will type infinitely. But the idea is very interesting to reflect on that. 28 letters of the alphabet can contain infinite knowledge of the world. The knowledge that we have, and the knowledge that we don't have, and the knowledge that can exist, the secret of eternal life, the secret of the creation, all the things can exist. So in the story of Borges, it says that, so we can imagine that some of these books are explaining these stories. And the people living in there, they are constantly searching for these books to have the story of the secret of the eternal life, secret of the creation, and all these things. But they don't have infinite lives, so they are searching all. So inspired by this concept, I coded a program. In this program, the computer do exactly what Borges explains in the books. So there is random characters of the alphabet and numbers and the spaces who are put one after another, as you can see on this screen. So this is completely random. So eventually, if we put the program to work infinitely, we will end up with all the books of the world, Shakespeare or anything. It is like the same work of the month. But what I try to do with that is that you can see a diagram in the middle that each letter is associated with a kind of a line. So on the left, in parallel, I told the program to draw a line each time it renders a letter. So, for example, imagine there is H. So the vertical line is drawn. And from the end point of that, the next letter is drawn. So eventually on the left, you can see that these shapes are being drawn. So these shapes are like territories, like maps. So you can imagine that eventually, if you launch the program and run it infinitely, we can end up with all the geographies possible. The existing continents, the existing cities, countries, islands, and everything, but also the alternative ones, those who did not exist, but they could exist. For example, if we imagine the colonization did not happen in the Middle East, so the borders would be different. So eventually, some of these territories could have been the borders that could exist in parallel worlds. So what I did then, I exported these forms. I took the Borges story, the book, and I painted the pages in whites, and I printed with riser printer the text rendered by the software and the territories. The result was this micro edition, which I call imaginary territories. In the print of these, I tried to integrate the question of the accident in the print. Because what we are doing here in the program, what I was trying to do was to investigate the role of the possibilities and accidents. So in the print, I try to reflect that as well. So this, the first project I'm showing you, these are old projects, but they are helpful to show you my process of work, my process of thinking, and But the fascination with the languages and writing systems was formed in me from the early years of uh, my life. So as you can see uh, in this picture, this is a typical signage that you could see when I was a child, when I was grown up in Iran, born and raised in Iran. What was interesting in this is the mixture of the styles and the writing systems together. On the left, we have the Arabic alphabet, but rendered in a style of writing which is developed in Iran, as the Alira style. In the middle, the red one is Arabic script, but written in a style, uh, Roqa style, which is mostly used and developed in the Arab countries of the Middle East. And on the right, you can see the Latin alphabet. So all these combinations, all this writing system was part of uh, the word that created, that the kind of contributed to my understanding of the world. What was so interesting is that when you are in Iran, Latin alphabet, surprisingly, is there. You cannot not see it. It is everywhere. Everything has a Latin counterpart. When you are looking at the shop's signage, there is always a Latin counterpart, which is not something we can see, like, for example, in Europe. In every country, you can see the language of that, and eventually maybe English to make it understandable by most of the people, but it still remains the same writing system. But Latin alphabet is something completely different. So eventually, you have to read Latin alphabet organically. So when I'm trying to remember, when I learn to read Latin alphabet, I cannot even remember. I think it is the same for all the Iranians. You cannot even remember when you started reading Latin alphabet because it is something is there. Another example of this mixture of the writing systems is in the calendars, Iranian calendars. So in the Iranian calendars, we have 3 dates to show the date of the day. We have the Persian date, which is from the Persian calendar, which is a solar calendar, which is official calendar used in Iran. And then we have the lunar calendar, which is mostly used for the Islamic religious ceremonies to understand when they are. And this is the calendar used in Arabic countries, some of the Arab countries. And then we have the Gregorian calendar, which is the Western calendar, which is used for international relationships. So we always have this, and I remember when you see the news, the anchor in the news, they try to say the dates in 3 different dates. What is so funny and interesting about this is that it made me conscious about the parallel words that exist, because I was not living in Europe or Arab country, but still I was aware of what the time, the space-time is there. So these are the multiple influences that was trying to form me as a child. These are different realities, like temporal and space times that the cultural reality that exists. For me, it was like the moon and the sun both are in the sky. It's not about just pure system that I'm using, but multiple of the system that was influencing. But this practice is not something new. Here you can see an example of the Ottoman calendar. At that time, there was um, 4 different dates, and 5 writing systems written in the calendar because of the diversity in the Ottoman Empire. So we can see that there is Arabic, there is Hebrew, there is Cyrillic, there is Latin, there is Armenian. and the dates are written in 4 different dates to show the date of the day. So I tried to make my own calendars. This is one of the old projects I did in France. So I tried to find the old French post calendars in the flea market. I gathered them and I tried to print um, different months of the calendar, the Persian one, the Arabic, and the Latin one, on these pages using Riso by superimposing the colors. Because Riso gave me this ability to layer, to superimpose, and to have an outcome which is more than each layer. So surprisingly, and some kind of metaphorically, after trying to print the second layer, the third layer could not happen because the papers were jammed. Because these papers were old, these French calendars, and it was so metaphorical for me, the capacity of the medium to take more than 2 layers. So for showing the months, I use the cut-out papers and I put directly on the Riso and I scan them and I printed them with different colors. This is the whole calendar with 12 months in the middle of the edition. And these are pages, which is, each page is 1 month. This is the Riso machine, for those who don't know. In 2018, I remember I was invited by Sharjah Biennale to expose this project. For this installation, I tried to interpret and translate this project into a light installation. So for this project, I used the colored shadow concept. Basically, this is a physical phenomena that if your source of the light is not white, this color, your shadow would not be black. Basically, because your object is blocking just one color, the other color can reach it and form the shadow based on the combination of those colors. Yeah, it is a little complicated. If you don't understand, it's okay. You can search it on your own later. It's the shadow colors concept. So I tried to make an installation in which I have 3 sources of lights with 3 calendars of the months of the installation of the exhibition, the show. So each one of these are blocking one color, and the shadows on the wall are different colors superimposed on each other. This was an interactive installation, meaning that people could turn on and turn off each source of light and make their own composition. For the numbers, I tried to use the numbers tradition writing in different writing systems. For example, in Iran, we use the Arabic script, a slightly modified version of that, but the scribal version, the style is kind of a little bit different. Another project I'm going to talk to you about is the New Year cards that I started with the COVID. So in Iran, the New Year is the beginning of the spring, which we call it Nowruz. There was an old tradition that during the Nowruz, people try to send celebration cards to each other. This tradition was kind of lost today because of the globalization and the digital world and stuff. People do it less and less. Uh, with the COVID, I tried to think how we can communicate with each other again, and I thought that this is one of the things that we can do. So I tried to design cards to send to the people. These cards are basically typographical cards, but I tried to. This is the beginning of the project. This was the first card. It was basically the changes that going in. It was the COVID. We were in the confinement, but we were hoping for the change and knows it's about the change. So, and each time I tried to print them in different techniques. So the Persian New Year is celebrated in various countries in the Central Asia. It is not just about Iran, it's many different cultures and ethnicities they celebrate it. Kurdistan, in Afghanistan, in Tajikistan, in Azerbaijan. Yeah, there are many different ethnicities, and each of them that has their own tradition, and they celebrate it differently. So the project became that each year I try to do these cards inspired by one of the ethnicities that celebrate Nowruz and combine it with the social and kind of political atmosphere of the year that passed about with the community of these people. So the second one, which I did with the lino, was basically inspired by the um, Afghanistan, the way that they celebrate it, and basically the reason was the rise in the racism toward the Afghan immigrants in the region, especially in Iran. And then I tried mostly each of these cards to distribute and send them to the people of the community. The third one was about was Kurdish one, and basically was the trigger was the news that I read that the boat in Mediterranean was drowned again, and I think dozens of people were killed actually in the Mediterranean, and most of them were Kurdish citizens. Um, and then I had this one, which is Baluchistan, which I was inspired by this mixture of the image and the pictorial way of writing. But I explained it to you to get to these points. This one is the last year one. There's a just small video that I invite you to watch. Can you hear the sound of the video?
No, I don't hear anything.
It will be fine, I guess. So does anybody knows this printer actually? I don't think you would because you are the new generation. You have never seen this. But if you have seen it, just raise your hand. I'm curious to know.
I mean, we're in Germany. We are still sending faxe. I don't know what's the English word, but I know this thing.
Ah, okay, cool. So this is dot matrix printer. I will explain after. Oh, sorry. Anyway, I think you saw that. So basically, this is dot matrix printer. I hope you could hear the sound, but it was not possible. So there's a very loud sound that. So basically, it is like tattooing the paper. It is the combination of needles that are behind the ribbon uh, of ink, and they just punch dots on the ribbon, and the ribbon punches them on the paper. It's kind of the same mechanism of the typewriter. You see, when you type, there is a letter that is push the ribbon, and the ribbon transfers the inks on the paper. Which is so interesting because at the end you can really feel the emboss of the needles. So the way I try to hack this, because it is always black and white, I try to put carbon papers so in this transfer they get the colors. And the concept for this one was the Azeri language, which is written by three different writing systems in the region. Each countries, actually each region in the Central Asia, the Azeri speakers, they write it differently. For example, in Iran, they write it with Arabic script, but in Dagestan, they write it with Cyrillic, and in Azerbaijan, they write it with Latin alphabet. So it is the same language written in three different writing systems. I want you to understand these difference of the languages of writing system. For example, Latin alphabet is used, obviously you would know that, for different languages like German, but also French, Italian, but the writing system remains the same. On the other hand, we have examples like, for example, Persian, which is written with Arabic script in Iran, but in Tajikistan, it is written with Cyrillic. Due to the, for example, the, 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 the political system they were imposed to them. But whether we talk about calendars as tools, programming and coding as tools, or hacking and printer, we would think that tools are always something sophisticated, but it is not always like that. One of the first and very simplest tools that we used and we are still using from the beginning of the invention of writing is the reed pen, which is simply the reed plant. So by cutting it, we make a qalam, which we use for calligraphy, which is a very simple tool. But also in the Mesopotamia, we use the same plant for engraving cuneiform. One of the projects I worked in 2018, 19, I guess, was making a platform for Arabic script, for Arabic type, actually. A platform that combines critical research and knowledge in the field. There is reading section for the platform for reading the articles, but also it tries to combine different tools, digital tools, which are adapted to the morphology of Arabic script. Knowing that Arabic script always tried to fit itself into the technologies that it didn't belong to, because most of the technologies after the invention of the movable type was developed for the Latin alphabet. And the difference is that Latin alphabet has detached letters. And Arabic it is not the case, and the letters are attached. So this gap between the technology and the writing system has made the Arabic script to be simplified, has imposed simplifications to the Arabic script. One of the features of the Arabic calligraphy is that the angle of the pen when we do the calligraphy, it changes at all time. When we are tracing a letter, we always should rotate the pen, the reed pen, because the contrast, the thin part and the thick parts, are made by these rotations. This made it make it difficult to do the lettering and calligraphy on digital devices, especially touch tablets, because they understand just the touch surface as one point. And rotation of one point remains just one point. So my simple solution was to integrate the same technique of two pen in the digital devices. So basically, we have two stylus that are attached together, and then we can rotate the pen easily. So this tool, which name is Calamus, is made for lettering on digital devices, and I made it in with the idea that it could be accessible, it would be open source and accessible on any touch device, any tablet or phone. And the feature is that when you draw your shapes, immediately it gives you the points and the bezier curves to modify it. And then you can export it to uh, type design software to make your own fonts or to have vector fonts for your lettering. But it also provides another interaction with the device, which we are not used to, which is two-point interaction. There is two modes, the ink mode and the type mode. And with the ink mode, we can understand the influence of the speed in writing. When it simulates how the ink works on the paper. When we write slowly, we have more ink condensed, and when we write fast, it becomes less dense. So there are two different prototypes for the stylus. One is with the fixed width, and the other one is with the variable width. These are just really simple prototypes. Yes. Here you can understand the difference of angle and its influence in type. There is the speed test. Uh, During the COVID, I did another project. I'll explain it because I'm sorry. to show you how the tool making helped me again. So I got interested in making simply animations, movements. So this was the first test I did. Um, so we were all at home. We had to wait. We didn't have anything to do. Um, for making animations, because I'm not so good at drawing, I had to always use something underneath and having rotoscopy means that having a light table and draw something that already exists. So I had an old laptop that was not working anymore. So I detached its monitor and I bought some small kits from the eBay and I tried to make a portable monitor out of that. So this is the device you can see with what I had at the home. So it was really simple, but the idea was that it serves for my purpose. So I made this wooden structure and I put the kit inside and the monitor on the top so that I can put my stuff on the light table and change the images and just draw them. We have this expression in Farsi that with patience we can transform the grape which is not ripe. I don't know how we say it in English, to halwa, which is a sweet pastry. Basically, it means that something which is not possible, something which is so sour, turn it to some sweet dessert, it is not possible. But with patience, you can do. So I tried to put these two words. And if you can remember, oops, these yellow pages are the calendar pages that I showed you in the beginning, which was the calendar that I had at home, which I brought from Iran. So I tried to basically draw these two words and their transformation together with this tool that I use, this monitor. So the result is the slow transformation between these two words. So this is basically a very simple domestic exploration and experimenting with the medium of the moving images. And from there, I took it forward and I tried a bunch of different moving letters, mostly Arabic, in different mediums, 3D, 2D, and these were the videos were meant to communicate in the social media. They all look and they are social. Here was the experimentation of 3D with the contrast. So yeah, I will pass because there is a bunch of them, different ones. Sometimes I use kinetic type, the notion of the physics. For this one, I think I should put the sound. Mm, I will try to put the sound if it is possible, so we can hear. So basically, what I did here was to take it more further, this project. I'm showing you this to let you know from the process to how it went from where to where. So I took it further and tried to integrate some interactivity to this project, meaning that I attached these variable fonts to a sound receptors through the code so the type is interacting with the sound. Then I tried the same thing with the device orientation and the 3D type. And eventually, this made me wonder how, in the absence of touch, physical, real touch, and while our understanding is mostly through the new medias on the phones, smartphones, how the graphic design can be different. So what I did was I initiated this project, which is called telegraphism, which is basically interactive posters. These posters interact. My question was, what if a poster can hear us? What if a poster can react to the touch and can react to the light of the atmosphere or the orientation of the device? So in that way, we can highlight different parts. For example, if the ambience light is kind of low, or if it reacts differently and it changes the color of the poster, for example. Or if we tilt the device, we can have some information that are small, they become bigger, or etc., etc. And these posters, conceptually, they were all about something related to connection between the people in the society. Another part of my job as a graphic designer, of course, is commissions and visual identities. So I try to integrate this notion of the tools and coding into the realm of graphic design and visual identities. So we have all seen this kind of dynamic visual identities, dynamic logos, in which the logo is not just one logo, fixed logo, but series of different phases of one logo that creates a dynamic visual system for example, here is the label for vinyl. But my question was how this dynamic system can be like a tool used by my clients. So what I did was making, can you see the website?
Yes.
So what I did was making a platform, coding a platform in which the client can change the logo and choose a different one, the desired one, and export it. So each time he will have a different logo exported by himself. So we have the randomness, we can just put random phases, or you can go and choose the phase that they like, and then they can have the text or not, and then they can export it. And they can have the vector format of the logo. I did the same with different ones. So basically, keshmakesh means a struggle in Farsi, which means pull and not to pull, which literal meaning is that, but actually it means a struggle. It was another project that I initiated, but I do not have the time to explain to you. But anyway, and this one is for a group working on ecology and vertical farming to use less water in dried areas. So again, we have different phases of the logo that I click, and then each phase has different combinations. So the possibilities are endless. You have endless number of logos that can be exported. Um, go faster. This is another one because I think I don't have a lot of time. How much time do I have?
So we have 10 more minutes. I mean, you can go on with your projects because like I think I had like 2 or 3 questions, but yeah, we can have the last 5 minutes for them.
Okay. So this is another application I made by coding that kind of gives halftone of the images. I was frustrated because I could not have good vector halftones with the shapes I desired. The patterns of the shapes that is vectorized that I can use them later. So I made this program in which I give an image and I can have the halftone in different shapes I want. The rectangular shapes, the round ones, pie ones, or lines. And I can choose the resolution I want. Like I want this pattern to be more precise, more smaller, or bigger. And basically, I did this basically to use in my project, of course, because this is a tool that helped me. So I was commissioned to do the catalog for the exhibition of art exhibition that the name is Conversation Montreal Lyon, conversation between the artists of Montreal and Lyon. So my idea was that, as you can see, this is very hidden message in the design, but I like to do that because this is something that excites me a lot. So the Montreal pattern is rectangular, the Lyon pattern is round and pie, and the conversation is a rounded rectangular pattern. So it makes the mix of these, which is done through this software that I do. So this is the catalog. I will go faster because we don't have enough time. Another project I did was for an artist, Shirin Fahimi. She works with the notion of the Oriental geomancy, a kind of divination in the Persian and Arab world. So he tried to transfer and teach me how the divination, sand, writing on the sand, and it is kind of astrology but on the sand. If I can very simplify that, how it is done. So I absorbed all she explained to me, and my role was to design a diagram that explains everything and contains everything about this. And this diagram was meant to be exposed in the gallery and also be a tool to explain, of course, for her, but also something aesthetically impressive. So this is the installation by her, which is many VR in her installations. And you can see on the back diagram But later in the other exhibitions, she made it as a real tool. So she put it on the table that people can sit around it and just explain how it works. So basically, she was explaining that what she did for this project was imagining where are the women prophets? Why don't we have women prophets? So it started with this idea, and she was explaining that people who did this were kind of prophets of their time. Yeah. So another aspect of my work is making typefaces, which is again another tool that can be used by many graphic designers. So this is a typeface I did. Its name is Roshan, in 5 different weights, bilingual one, Latin and Arabic. It was a very long process because I did design all the different scripts myself with the idea of reviving old forms of Arabic. So these old forms can be activated through ligatures system in the typeface. It's a very big project. It needs another 20 minutes to explain, so I will pass very fast and show how these tools was handy for me to do an identity. This is the complete leaf set, and I use this typeface to do the visual identity for Le Peuple Vol, which is a militant group working on internationalism and liberation of Palestine in Marseille, in Paris. And the event was in Marseille. So the idea was using the offset and transgression of the borders of the paper. As you can see, we can see the crop marks. Basically, it was the 5th edition. So by putting 4 posters together, we will have the final poster, which is the 5th poster. So basically the poster, the combination is this, and then there is offsetting, there is taking it out of its place and making the posters that should be collected together. The same concept was used in our Instagram pages. Tiling concept, and also poster for the concept. And to finish, I will show you the video of putting these posters on the wall by the people of the association. Thank you so much. And sorry for my voice, sorry for coughing, and sorry for being all over the place and going fast.
All good. Thank you so much for the presentation. I mean, we don't have time for the Q&A session, but it was really informative. So if there's any questions, please write in the chat. Otherwise, like we have 2 more minutes. I wanted to ask, like, what sorts of coding do you use? Like, what are the coding languages that you normally use, which are more appropriate for this kind of projects?
I use mostly web coding, like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, but I use libraries like P5GS, processing, because they are more adapted to the graphic design. So if you're interested, I really recommend you to try processing. There is many sources and documentation on the internet, and it is really adapted for fast and easy coding for designers.
Thank you so much. Thank you again.
Thank you so
I don't
much.
want to, I mean, yeah, like, thank you for having the talk, although you were not feeling well. We really appreciate that.
Thank you, and I hope it was clear at least, and
Yes,
I hope it helped your students.
and we hope to have you again.
Sure,
Another
I hope
point.
so.
Okay.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you everyone for
Right.
tuning in, and
Okay.
I wish you all a very nice evening. Ciao.
Have a good day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.